Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to our Vanilla Minecraft series, and obviously we're up here at our crop farm yet. We're not actually going to be doing anything up here today, but before we hop off, I figured I would show you guys that we have quite a backlog of crops going on. So that's pretty good. We're actually to the point where we're filling up our second set of chests, which means that our second shulker box down below is also filling up now, which is very, very cool. Though, for some reason, we are quite a long ways behind where we should be on potatoes. For some reason, one of the potato villagers above got kind of stuck and stopped farming for a while. Like, a long while. His entire floor was fully grown, and he didn't start again until I got close to him. And as a result, we actually have 2.5 double chests more carrots than we do potatoes. So that's a little weird. I hope that doesn't happen all that often, but either way, the farm is running very quickly. It's back up to full capacity now, and we're already getting obnoxious amounts of stuff. So that's all well and good, but that's not actually why I wanted to start up here today. The reason I started up here today is this. So, at the end of last episode, we built a few hearts around our villager. We turned him into kind of a Valentine's Day villager, right? And after I did that, I made the comment that there wasn't another major holiday coming until Easter, so he was probably going to stay in Valentine's mode for quite a while. But my rather patriotic buddy Leb disagreed with me. No holidays, President's Day is Monday. Referring to this past Monday, of course, and he's gone ahead and converted our villager over to Abraham Lincoln. Which, fair enough, that is true. I was trying to stay to global holidays, since I know a lot of people here aren't from the US, but that's fair, I suppose. There's no other, like, super major holidays going on. That's completely fair. So now we've got a Abraham Lincoln villager who is in love, apparently, so we're still carrying on the Valentine's tradition a little bit. And I think this is probably how he's going to stay, at least until the next major holiday we switch over to. And, well, that's that. So, what we're actually going to do today, now that we've got that out of the way, is work on our Mega Taiga village. So, I'm going to go ahead and get some stuff prepared and head on over there, and I'll meet you guys when I'm there. So, here we are in our yet unnamed Mega Taiga medieval village, which we should probably give a proper name to at some point, because Mega Taiga Medieval Village sounds kind of lame. So if you guys have any suggestions for that, be sure to let me know. But what we're actually going to work on today is trying to expand this project out a little bit. So last time we were here, as I'm sure you recall, we worked on the pathways a little bit. We tried to figure out what we were doing with that, so we worked at a few different styles there. We also tried out a few different styles for the trees, and more importantly, we laid out the pathways, or where our pathways are actually going to go, using terracotta blocks. So the yellow terracotta blocks represent our main pathways. These kind of snake all over the place. These are going to be the main, widest, biggest roads. Then, of course, we have some other secondary ones. Now, the biggest thing that we can do as far as planning our village out and kind of figuring out where things can go is getting these pathways in place. That's going to help us know how much space we have for certain buildings. It's going to let us know where we can put down trees and boulders and all kinds of other detail stuff. It's just going to be a huge help to get that done. So, what I want to do today, like the biggest priority thing I want to take care of, is trying to get our main pathway established. So all of the yellow terracotta blocks, which go out all over the place, I want to try and make a road system that covers all of those. So we're going to have to go all the way down here. We're going to have to go all the way down this way over to that river, all the way over there to the lake, or the ocean rather, and then back this way a little ways as well. Like so. So that's going to be quite a task. I'm going to try and at least somewhat landscape as I go so that things aren't quite so rough, because obviously this isn't going to make great terrain by default for a roadway. So we're going to have to clear out a lot of land, clear out a lot of trees, you know, plug up some ponds and whatnot. But I think it's going to be a huge, huge help going forward. All right, there's a building that's going to go there. Maybe we'll even get to a building today. We'll see how things turn out. But priority number one, we need to get this path system in place. So I'm going to go ahead and get to that, get to prepping this area and starting to build all of these various pathways. And, well, we'll see how it turns out.
busters.
So now we have our main pathways leading through our village, and I think that looks pretty cool overall. Definitely makes the village feel a lot bigger and more expansive, so that's cool. And it also lets us know how much space we have when we're adding new buildings in and all of that good stuff. So it does still need to be tweaked a little bit. There's a few spots that feel a little bit too thin and a few spots that feel a little bit too thick. And apparently a spot that is growing grass again. Dang it. I have fixed this problem so many times in so many different spots on this pathway, including right here, actually. I do not know how that happened again, but apparently I'm going to have to fix that. I'll deal with that later, though. First things first, let's go ahead and take a little stroll down our pathway so you guys can see what it looks like. I do think I kind of want to add one more thing to it, and I'm not entirely sure what that is yet. I feel like it's missing some really subtle detail that would kind of push it over the edge. Do keep in mind that it is meant to be a very basic dirt path. It's not meant to be anything too extravagant because that would kind of go against the theme that we have here. So it does need to be relatively basic, but I feel like it could still use something. We do also have these little kind of farmland patches that are meant to look like a muddy spot. And honestly, I actually think that turned out really well because the farmland has a little indent, so it looks like it's a low spot in the road that pooled water and turned to mud. So I like that. I don't know about how often I have them. I tried to tone it down, actually. Initially, I was putting them all over the dang place. And maybe that would be better. Maybe that's actually what it needed. Maybe I should have more of those to give it more detail. I'm not entirely sure. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll test it out a little bit. But that is our pathways. Now, I'm actually going to go on a little bit of a side tangent here for a second, because I found something really, really cool while I was doing this. While I was flying around and getting an aerial view of the whole thing. Over here, behind this kind of cliff face that we built back the first time we were over here, if we were to build a cave into this and go out the opposite side, it would lead us into a really, really cool valley. So it leads you to right here. If we were to dig this stuff out, it would lead us to this area right here. Now, this is a really long valley with steep cliff faces on both sides, and it feels really, really cool down here. But honestly, I don't actually know how to tie this into the village, because it would be a really, really hard spot for them to build in. It's hard to get materials back here. It's hard to get back here in general. They would have to either go through the cave or down steep staircases or something. It just doesn't make much sense to use this as part of the village. It doesn't seem like somewhere they would realistically be building. So I don't actually know what to do with it. Obviously, I could just try and make it look cool in a natural way. I could customize all the trees and redo the terrain and whatnot. But it would be cool to have some distinct feature back here of some kind. But I don't know. You guys will have to let me know if you have any ideas for that. It does lead out all the way over to the front of our village, basically. Obviously, it levels out over here. And if we head right over this way, we will come across our river right over there. Which, actually, that might be kind of a cool thing to use that valley for. We could branch off our river and send the river down that valley, and maybe even have it branch out into our village itself. That's a thought. That might be kind of a cool way to handle it. But here is our main river, and of course the front of our village is going to be right over here. So that would be kind of cool, leading over to that valley. That is a thought. If you guys have any other ideas, be sure to tell me, because, again, kind of at a loss there. And, well, here we are at the front of our village, so we can walk back in on our fancy new path system. So eventually we're going to have a big wall right here with a big gate in it. Not a massive castle gate or anything, but something that people can walk through, and then you get on the path and we'll be able to walk into our village. Oh, and our path does have one other issue. When we cross dirt patches like this one in the Mega Taiga, obviously our pathway blends into it, and you can't really tell it's there. I think the solution to this is a little bit of clever landscaping. So if I were to heavily forest this area, build some custom trees here and whatnot, and then cover the ground in podzol and path blocks, that would probably look really good and separate it from our pathway. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem, thankfully. Anyway, that's enough talk about our pathway system. let's go ahead and add something a little more exciting to... exciting? You'll have to forgive me. It's getting a little bit late already. But we're going to have to go ahead and add something exciting to our village. Now, I was thinking about this a little bit. I want to add a new building here, but I don't want it to just be a house. I don't want it to look like these do. And the issue with that is that a lot of our builds are kind of in this style. A lot of them are more interesting looking, but they still are houses. And I wanted to do something a little different. Unfortunately, most of the builds that aren't houses are bigger, more intricate ones that I want to dedicate more time to. But there is one that came to mind, and that is what I want to do with these stables. So I want to build a kind of weird looking stable building. I don't know if we'll even keep it, because it is a very, very strange style. But I want to try it out, and I want to try that out right over here. That's what this little pillar over here is meant to represent. So basically you'll be able to walk in through the front of the village, and there'll be a spot to leave your horse. So that should be pretty cool. I don't know if this is even going to be enough space for it, because it is a relatively large building, but I'm sure I'll make it work. So I'm going to go and get to that, and I'll be back with you guys once that's in place, and we can see how it turned out. So here's our new stable building. I think I could get used to that. I think that turned out okay. So the idea for this was basically that I wanted a relatively open building. I didn't want it to just be a closed off, almost barn-like structure. I wanted it to be a little different than that. And I also wanted something that wasn't rectangular, because a lot of our buildings are going to be rectangular, so trying to integrate a few other shapes into it is always a good thing. So as for the building itself, it is kind of a semicircle, and, you know, it's just got, 5 different pens for horses, which, I don't know, maybe we'll stick a few horses in here just for detail's sake. That'll probably be cool. No idea if there's any horses in the nearby area, actually. I don't think I've seen any when I've been venturing around nearby areas, but that would be worth doing, I suppose. The building itself, I think, turned out okay. The roof is meant to be like a thatch roof, which I really wish we had a proper thatch block, so we didn't have to use hay bales. The red lines just make it look so much worse than it really should. And I've tried to cover that up a little bit with leaves because, you know, leaves solve all problems, but it's just so prominent. And unfortunately, there's just no alternatives. At the very least, I'm hoping that the new hay bale texture that Jasper's doing turns out a little bit better. The current iteration of it still has the red bands on it, but they're much less prominent. So at the very least, that should look a little bit nicer, though I really wish you would switch them over to brown, because that would at least make it more usable for things like this. Anyway, that is our stable building, and I think I'm mostly satisfied with that. This spot looks a little bare. Maybe we could use some vines or something on here as well. But technically, this isn't done yet, even beyond just the basic detailing, because we do still need to actually connect this up to our pathway. Now, the way that I think I want to do this is to have 2 different pathways that lead into it. One from this direction and one from this direction. That way we have kind of a smooth arch in to the stable area, regardless of which direction you're coming from, That way you don't need to make like a harsh turn. I think that'll be pretty cool, and it also means we're going to end up with like a little island in the middle, and with that we can put in a big boulder or a tree stump or something a little bit more interesting than just having flat ground. So that should be pretty cool. The main reason I haven't done that yet, though, is that I think we also need an area for people to kind of leave the stuff they would be pulling with the horses. So if you come into the village with an empty cart from taking it to wherever they would go with it, and you don't have anywhere for it yourself, or maybe they're just always stored here, you would maybe park the cart somewhere nearby. And we could just have it so they're a bunch of carts kind of off to the side. That would be fine. But I may also want to do something a little bit more intricate with it. So I'm holding off on that until I know what I'm going to do for that particular thing. Once I have that planned out, we will add in the pathways and figure out all of that stuff. But for right now, I think we're going to call it here on this project, and unfortunately also call it here on the video. It's a little bit short today. I'm kind of still struggling to keep up, but I wanted to make sure I was getting a video of both this and Revelation out this week. So hopefully I'm back on schedule now. I should be. Fingers crossed. But I think we're good. So, even though it's a little bit short, I hope you guys enjoyed our progress today. I hope you enjoyed the little bit that we got done on our Mega Taiga village. As I said earlier, if you guys have ideas for the name for this place, or general styles for the name for this place, be sure to tell me, because I am awful at naming things, but calling this place the Mega Taiga village, not very cool. So, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you had an awesome time. And next week, we should be back to our regularly scheduled programming and back on schedule without me having to stay up until 6 in the morning. Hopefully. Anyway, I'm going to call it here. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.